So recently, I watched through the entirety of Squid Game for the very first time in less than 2 weeks, so I'm gonna rank all 3 seasons of Squid Game. Hi, my name is Nathan, and I like to talk about a lot of movies on this channel. If you're new here, down below in the comment section, share your ranking of all 3 seasons of Squid Game. This video does contain spoilers. I will spoil away in this video, so I'm assuming that you have seen the show, and if you haven't seen Squid Game, then come back to this video as soon as you watched Squid Game. Over on my channel, I have more content like this. Check those out once this video is over. And if you enjoyed this video, click the like button and be sure to subscribe because that really does help a lot. With all that said, let's just get straight into the ranking. Coming in last place is Season 3. The way the show kind of plays out, essentially Season 2 and 3 are kind of play out as one season. As somebody that binged through the entire show, it kind of felt that way to me, and they just split it up in 2 different release dates, one marketed as Season 2 and this one being marketed as Season 3, which is essentially just Season 2 Part 2, the back half of these games. And as the conclusion to the show, while there were quite a few moments I enjoyed, I thought there were things in here that were absolutely some of the highest that Squid Game has ever been. I also felt like this was the most frustrating of all the seasons of the show. The creator of the show, before this was released, made it very clear this was not going to have a happy ending, and I can see how the ending would be polarizing to some people in the way they send off the Gi-hun 456 character at the end, but that's not really even my problem with this season. It's just that for me, it felt like everything that this season did fantastic, which I thought there were some fantastic things about this season. There was also a downside and a consequence to that. So what I mean by that is that sometimes there are very emotional and sad deaths, even more sad deaths than Season 2, I would argue, where you get a scenario in one of the games, the hide and seek game, where a mother is forced to kill her own son, and it's just gut-wrenching, and because of her guilt later on, she hangs herself, and just some gut-wrenching stuff like that you can't help but it draws emotions out of you effectively. Likewise, you get Myung-gi killing somebody in the hide and seek game. It's a senseless act of violence. Jun-hee sacrificing herself in the jump rope game to save her baby. The baby not ever knowing her parents. Like, there are a bunch of just really great deaths in here. But the issue, the downside consequence to that, is that the deaths result in Sky Squid Game, the final game, they're just a bunch of random characters. None of these people you actually care about. And the way they do the final game is essentially just a bunch of people talking. And it's not interesting to me because it's not characters that I particularly care about if they live or die. The games are still very tense. I would say the games here are stronger than the games in Season 2, where you get, especially the first 2 games in the season, I thought were very effective. It keeps you invested in every episode, but also there were just some endings to plot lines that I also just think didn't work. Like, the way they treated 333 Myung-gi, I thought there was an interesting way to go with his character but instead what they decided to do at the end of it was he becomes a full-on psychopath at the end in the blink of an eye, which, like, you're kind of rooting for him in the final game as he's trying to help Gi-hun and his own baby get out of the Squid Game, and then he just flips over so quickly, turns into an outright psychopath that threatens to kill his own baby, and I didn't feel like that change was earned very much. The detective subplot with Detective Huang goes absolutely nowhere. We just kind of meander all around it, and he makes some very stupid decisions, all leading up to him reaching the island, only for it to explode 30 seconds later. And the very final sequence felt like it was trying so hard to set up this American Squid Game that we're apparently going to be getting soon. So for me, this season, it had a bunch of things going for it. There were a lot of things that I really liked about it. In fact, earlier today, I was discussing with one of my friends about season 3 of Squid Game, he said it was his favorite season in the entire show. So I can understand how some people would love it, because there are some things to love here. I don't hate this season or anything, but by far it's easily, to me, the most frustrating season of the show that we've gotten. Our runner-up is season 2, the first half of this set of games that was season 2 and 3. I went into the season not really sure what to expect in its quality of it. I knew there were different games. I knew 456 Gi-hun was returning, and I just kind of expected it to be kind of a watchable enough rehash of the first season. But what it wisely decided to do was change up all the dynamics just a little bit to make for a very, very interesting season. So to be clear, I go positive on this season. I go positive on the one above this. And I thought that this season changed up a bunch of dynamics that made it fresh, new, and different without just feeling like a beat-for-beat rehash of what they did so well in season 1. Where in this season, we kick it off immediately. Gi-hun is spending his money to try to track down the recruiter and the frontman that does the Squid Games. And the games really don't kick in until the 3rd episode of this season, but the stuff before that is very interesting. The recruiter is this mysterious character that dies in the first episode. There's this mystery to him, and it keeps you engaged even in the episodes where there's no games. But even in the games, it changes a bunch of the dynamics as well, where Gi-hun had a friend in season 1 in the games, but he has a very different type of friend in these games. And it plays around with some ideas of what certain scenarios would look like in a Squid Game, where they add a mom and a son that have a relationship, a connection to each other in the games, and what would that look like? You have a scenario where a lady is pregnant and has unresolved conflicts with the ex-boyfriend that is also in the games, and how would a pregnant lady do in the Squid Games? It plays around with these dynamics, and it introduces a new set of characters that feel entirely different, but are still compelling people in their own right. And even some of the characters who are not compelling, I think the big standout character of this season isn't even like one of the main characters or anything. It's Thanos, the rapper, who he just brings so much screen presence, so much energy to here.
Oh. What's up? Nice to meet you, my brother. Welcome to the Thanos world.
When I think of this season, I think of this character, and I wish he wasn't killed off so soon, because I would have loved to see him in season 3. But these characters are just generally compelling, where you got a mother trying to support her son, a pregnant lady trying to support her unborn child, a broken person who scams people online, who's trying to kind of do the right thing to help the people that he cares about. There's still a set of compelling characters, but it's a very different set of compelling characters than what came before. Now, I will say the games here aren't particularly as interesting. The first game is just kind of red light. It's red light, green light again, literally. And then the second game, I didn't find tense at all. Maybe it was the music that played in the background, the way it played out. It wasn't a very tense sequence. It picked up a little bit with the third game, but I didn't find the games here as interesting as I did with season 1 or even season 3. But still, I thought this was a nice companion to season 1 that did something new and different with the character dynamics to make it interesting. But easily in first place for me is season 1, and I feel like season 1 of this show was simply just not overthinking what you could do with this concept. And what I mean by that is that it, on its surface, it's a very simple concept that's executed fantastically. They came up with this concept of a bunch of people who are in debt, who are down on their lives, that get abducted, taken to this island of their own will, and play a bunch of children's games, but it's life or death. And that's just a fascinating concept for a tense, edge-of-your-seat thriller that's very effective. And it's executed fantastically as well. While it does have all the tense, edge-of-your-seat thrills and interesting games and tense death sequences and all of that stuff, you also get a compelling set of empathetic characters that you care about. It's a set of very flawed people that have made mistakes in their life and are here to turn it around, but also give in to their worst tendencies. They are very flawed, broken people that, in a situation like this, don't necessarily know in their right mind how to respond, and it leads to so many interesting scenarios that the characters get put in. One of the games involves two people pairing up, playing a game of marbles, and some of these people are friends, and it leads to some very emotionally pounding deaths. Like, I think especially when player 199 dies and Sang Woo decides to give in to the greed, to the worst tendencies. When he dies, it's very effective. The ending, the final game in this season, the Squid Game in this season, is, I think, a lot more effective than the one in Season 3, simply because it's two characters that have differing viewpoints. One is, like, a lot more desperate than the other one, and they care about each other, and you care about the characters. The dynamic here is interesting. It's not just a bunch of nobodies the way like in Season 3. So it has all the interesting character dynamics and characters thrown into the mix, great thrills, and also effective commentary. The entire show kind of has this commentary and message going around, as it's commenting on human greed and selfishness and how we as humans can give into our worst tendencies, make bad choices in order for our own personal gain when we are desperate. And I think Season 1 easily was the season that kind of balanced out thrills, characters, plot, as well as commentary all in one. And this is something that I just thought really worked all throughout the entire season. The messaging wasn't too heavy-handed, and the horror of the situation, the characters, you feel all of it, all leading up to an ending that makes you want to see more of this show. And I wish they had followed up with Season 2. I wish Season 2 and Season 3 were a little bit better, even though I liked Season 2 a good bit. I especially wish Season 3 was a little bit better, but it doesn't match the heights of this season because it balanced it out in a way that was accessible, entertaining, and for that reason, it is easily the best season of this show. There you have it. That's my ranking of all 3 seasons of Squid Games. Down below in the comment section, share your ranking of the 3 seasons of the show. Or on my channel, there's more content like this. Check those out right now. Thank you guys so much for sticking around to the end. I'll see you in the next one.